All right, Rob, let's go ahead and start with the third step prayer, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Sounds fantastic. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Cave, recovered alcoholic. And the third step prayer is on page 63 of your big book if you want to follow along. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, so we left off last week, and we left off where we were just finishing up our step five. But let's go ahead and go back one paragraph where we're actually in the act of doing our step five, and we'll take it from there, Rob.
Okay, page 75, everybody. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Yeah, the first couple of sentences there, we talk about looking into every nook and cranny, and I kind of it's like really going into and cleaning a room from top to bottom, or cleaning the inside of a car out from front to back, that type of thing where you're not missing anything, including in between the seats or in between cushions of some piece of furniture or something like that. But the point being is what you want to do is to be as thorough and as complete as you can possibly be with regard to the things that you actually express to this person that you're talking to. We're talking, of course, of twist of character, every dark cranny of the past, things that we're ashamed of, that we're embarrassed by, that we know that we caused some harm, some level of pain, something that we inflicted on somebody else that we have either resentment or regrets. It's it's really important to kind of note those first couple of sentences and the fact that we need to be as complete as possible, and then and only then that completeness is really the ingredient that's necessary in order to bring you to that place where you've got that peace and ease. I mean, if you've been that honest and if you've been that thorough, what a refreshing feeling that's going to be. And it is a very impactful thing, and that's what they're referring to when we get to this point where we're actually talking about a spiritual experience. It is just uplifting, it's cleansing, it is this weight off your shoulders, and you've been able to really review stuff. You've done it courageously and honestly, and it's that feeling that you get when you've really accomplished something. um, and then obviously we are on the broad highway of walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. So it's this important, this one paragraph really just kind of summarizes all of the things that we're trying to accomplish in a what would probably take several hours or at least a few hours to review with somebody, most likely your sponsor, because obviously you want to make sure that the person is the right person, that understands completely what you're trying to do and is in no way trying to change anything about you or to drag or direct the conversation. Rob?
Yeah. The first one is once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we're delighted. Remember, we can't hold anything back. If we do, we're going to pay for it and regret it later on. The other thing is that a lot of sponsees, when you first take them on, will say, well, I haven't had a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening. When is this going to happen? Well, in here, it tells us that we may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. Step 5. Okay, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Page 75, everybody. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, return to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand?
Yeah, and again, we start at the beginning of this paragraph, and it's really important to kind of set that time aside. There's some time to be contemplative and very much in kind of a meditation mode where you basically just sit down, you think about the things that you talked about, you review them in your mind, and really what you're trying to do is just ensure that you were as complete as you possibly could be, and you were as honest as you possibly could be, and that you didn't miss anything. And guess what? This is a time for you to find out. If you miss something, just note it, jot it down, make sure that you get that part out again. There's nothing wrong with having a sub part 5, if you want to call it that, a step 5, I'm sorry, and really just getting that much more out there. All of us are not, we're human, so we're going to forget a couple of things here and there. And I remember after doing my step 5, after I sat down and I thought about it, and then after, first couple of 3 days afterwards, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it just happened to be that I was able to clear my mind of all of these other things. And it just opened up the opportunity to remember a couple of other things. And I quickly got to a second kind of, shortened, very much shortened, obviously, step 5 with my sponsor, and did that. The other part of this is that as a part of your spiritual experience is that you want to really thank your higher power for giving you the strength and the courage to be able to sit down with somebody and actually talk about the things that you talked about. And reviewing the steps, those are on page 59, as we all know, and looking at the first 5 proposals, the first 5 steps. We make sure that we've reviewed everything, we've done everything. And it's kind of a nice little, bookend, if you will, with regard to kind of completing your first real set of action steps. And there you are. And we're talking about, of course, the stones. We've got those listed in the chat. If you can see the chat, I'll just quickly go over them real quick. Is that page 12 is the foundation and willingness. Page 17 is the cement, which is the solution. Page 47 talks about the cornerstone of belief. Page 62, we're talking about the keystone, which is obviously a reference to your higher power or God. Page 75 is the arch that we're referring to and then page 97 is going to be helping others, is the foundation stone of recovery. So with that, we just make sure that everything is complete as possible, much like a construction person is going to go back and look and make sure that they use the right materials for the right job, and they achieve the right results of the projects that they're working on. And in this case, this project is you, and focusing on your resentments more than anything else, and all of the things that you have in your past that you're, like I said, just a little bit either ashamed of, embarrassed by, angry about, resentful for, et cetera, and making sure that you've uncovered all of that stuff. And that old saying, if you left no stone unturned, is an important one to use in this part. Bob?
Beautifully put, Leo. We're at the top of page 76, everybody. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing.
Yes. Again, there's a lot here. Of course, if we can answer to our satisfaction, we're talking about resentments, fears, conduct, and harms. All right. And we're talking about to our satisfaction, and we mean to our strong satisfaction. This has to be an overwhelming kind of accomplishment that you're going to do. You're now ready to look at. And I want to emphasize look at step 6, and we're just now starting to look at it. You're still reviewing things, so we emphasize the willingness as being indispensable. Okay, that's the key to this step. And are we ready now to let our higher power remove from us all the things which we have admitted that are objectionable? Big deal here. And this is one where you've really got to be honest with yourself. And we're talking about things that are your defects of character. Now, if you figure out that you're still clinging to something, it's time for you to get down on your knees and actually talk to your higher power and get that out in the open, and really get the courage to get this out and talk to another person. And the point being here is that you need to get to the place where you're willing to actually talk about it, and you've actually accomplished what we're trying to do in this paragraph. That is getting to the point you find something you're still holding on to and getting it out in the open, and to talked about to someone else, and then you work on it. Rob?
Yeah. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Most important thing right there. We start with willingness. You know, now, can he take them all? Every one. Remember, we don't take them. He takes them. And so we don't have to fight over it. There was an article about shortcomings and defects of character, which I'm going to put up in the chat. Hey, I just found it too. Funny. It's right there, which I will be putting up in the chat, so that because a lot of people talk about, well, what's the difference between defects of characters and shortcomings? Well, and some people say there's a difference. Bill just used them interchangeably here, which Bill did an awful lot of. He used different words to express the same thing, because he took a writing course, and the guy that was running the writing course says that, people get bored of seeing the same words over and over again. So I'll put that in the chat, and you can download it if you want to read it. If you don't, that's fine too. A lot of the stuff we put in the chat is just to try to help, so that you don't have to write down everything, because we lose track of what's going on, because we're so focused on what happened earlier. So I try to put it in the chat so that you can copy and paste it to WordPad and make it a little bit easier for you. I hope it helps. If it doesn't, well, hey, it won't kill you. Okay. So we're on page 76, everybody. And this is the 7th step prayer. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We then completed step 7.
Yep. So there's a couple of things are happening pretty quick here, and that's in the intent of these things. Is once we've basically sat down and we've meditated and been contemplative over our step 5, we've basically made sure that we've covered everything that we can think of, and being honest and open about it. We've gotten to the point where we're entirely ready to have our higher power remove all the defects of character. Okay, so that ends up doing our step 6, as we just did, and that is that as long as we're willing to have God take these things away, and then we say our step 7 prayer. Okay, and that's humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Now, what's important here is that when you ask for this, is that you're being very earnest and honest about asking, and very willing to have this actually happen. So when you actually ask to have these things removed, know that your higher power is right there beside you and is going to do those kind of things. All right. And you get the strength now for you as you do your bidding. Okay. Now we're kind of setting the stage for a step 8. It's going to be another action step here, but nonetheless, this gets basically in 2 paragraphs. We've done step 6. We've asked for willingness, and then for us to let go and give up. And then step 7 is we ask our higher power to take away our defects of character. There's a lot of refreshing moments that are happening right now. These are things that should be making you feel very good about yourself and about where you are in your stage of recovery. So that's important too, and really working closely with a sponsor that is both caring and attentive, and making sure that you are being guided properly and in achieving the goals of what steps 5, 6, and 7 are all about.
Page 76. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol.
Right. And that is the important thing that we're trying to note here. Going to any lengths is really that point of actually taking your step 4, talking about it with your in your step 5. That's, you've got a great kind of like review of everything that's there. So basically, right after you finish your step 5, you're going to go through step 6 and 7. Like, I mean, it's going to happen very quickly and immediately. And I'm going to say immediately as the word here. You're going to start your step 8, which is going to start listing the people that we have actually got resentments for. We've created fears. Our conduct has been unbecoming, and or we've harmed somebody in some way. And we're referencing it back to our step 4, where we found the places where we were wrong in what our actions were, and taking those people that we have had an impact on and listing them. So that's your step 8, is listing these people out, listing out who they are and what you've done and what you feel the impact has been. Okay. And really starting to put that list down. Okay. Now, step 9 is going to go out and make amends. All right. We're really going to get into it here as we kind of go forward. But we're talking about, you having to do your part in setting up the list, getting the amends kind of set in motion. And I'm going to note here, we'll say this a couple of times here, but we're not talking about just an apology. We're talking about actual amends for the things that you've done. And it's not so much that you got to start out. In fact, we're going to tell you never to start out with, I'm sorry. What you do is you ask the other person what it is you can do to make amends. And if they say a simple apology will work, well, then there you go. Give a sincere and complete apology for what you've done. But I'm just trying to do a precursor here that we're not just talking about calling somebody up and saying, hey, I'm sorry for X, Y, or Z. That doesn't cut it. And we're going to find out more as we go along. But this willingness to make amends, that's also an important part of this. It's that setting up the things that you're going to be. This is really going to take a lot of courage in some cases for you to finally get in touch with somebody in some manner or fashion, whatever the best way is. And we'll talk about that as we go along as well, especially when we get to our steps 11 and looking at things that we're trying to accomplish here. So with that, finally, we're willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. And remember, that's the basic tenet for recovery. Rob?
Yeah. Right here it says, now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage. We are not doing an apology. Okay. Sorry doesn't cut it. We have to make restitution for the harms that we have made. And I love the analogy that our brother Bill from New Jersey always talks about. If I am driving along the road and I, am not paying attention and I take out your fence, okay? If I knock on your door and say, hey, I'm sorry I took out your fence, that's an apology. I have to make restitution. I have to make your fence the way it was beforehand. Either I pay somebody to do it or I do it myself, okay? But saying sorry does not cut it. Okay. And we have to remember that. If I owe you money, saying I'm sorry isn't cutting it. I have to start to pay you back. Whether it's a small sum at the beginning, in order to pay the debt back. But that's restitution. Okay. And as I say, an apology doesn't cut it. We have to repair the damage done in the past. Probably there are some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature of our approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we're trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. We lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, there's a little bit left here, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries.
Yeah. And probably there are some misgivings, and it's going to be kind of a tough situation where you're basically looking at things and you're going, there's probably still some raw emotions that are involved in this particular case with this particular person. So I'm going to make sure I make a note of it, but I'm going to have to pray on this, ask my higher power for guidance in how I might approach this in some manner or fashion in the future. We may feel diffident, that is modest or shy because of a lack of self-confidence is what diffident means, about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. All right. Some people we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. Okay, let's use Rob's example of hitting somebody's fence and knocking it down. The last thing that person probably needs to hear from you is that you've gained a spiritual experience and you want to express that to them in some manner or fashion. The fact is that it's kind of black and white. You damaged their fence, you knocked on their door, you're going to make restitution. You're going to get it fixed. You're going to pay to get it fixed, something like that, but you're going to do that. And that's really what that particular case or person is going to actually care about at that point in time. Some people are going to really appreciate the fact that you have found a spiritual experience. You have, a strength about you that is brought on by a higher power, and that's going to be meaningful to certain people at certain times. So you're just going to have to kind of understand who those people are and work through them, and getting guidance from your sponsor is a great way to kind of bounce this off of somebody and say, hey, I wanted to make amends to this person. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And how I should go about it. And certainly, by all means, please talk to your higher power, ask for that guidance internally, and listen to what the answers are. So this talking about our real purpose, as Rob emphasized, is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and to the people about us. That's a newfound kind of place. It's a new environment that you're going to be living within. You're going to make an effort to actually care and be empathetic with other people. You're going to experience humility, and you're going to swallow your pride. You're not going to try to be the director and all things in the show. You're going to actually open your ears, your mind, and your heart, and just listen. Now, they do have a warning here, and that is that it is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him or her, and it's important to note that, if it's, let's say it's an ex-spouse and you're behind on certain payments, or there is something that you did that harmed the relationship and caused the demise of that relationship, and it's still relatively new, or it's still very raw. You hear it when you hear this person talk or express themselves. It's probably not going to work to try and actually approach them in a manner in which you're trying to make amends and doing so. But you're going to evaluate that as you go along, and some amends, well, the step 9 is going to come easy, and when it does come easy, usually you get a positive response. And when you get a positive response, and I'm speaking from experience, it builds confidence. It builds that willingness to go at it and do it again and again. And then there's going to be some of those that are going to be very difficult. Sometimes those are the ones that actually build the most confidence and have the best results, because your assumption that something isn't going to go quite right, and you find out that you've approached this person properly, they've listened and been attentive to what you're actually trying to accomplish. They respond accordingly and in a positive manner. Next thing you know, you're kind of thinking to yourself, why did I think that one was going to be so tough? It actually went really well. And that feeling is really what I want to call elation. And that's really what you're trying to accomplish here, is that you've made this person better and or happier by approaching them, making the amends, and then you reap some of that benefit and that feeling, and it gives you that newfound good feeling and confidence. And all of a sudden, colors seem a little bit brighter, and the day just seems a little bit better. And you're kind of lighter in your step, and you feel good about yourself, and you feel good because people are responding in a positive manner back to you. And all of a sudden things start melting away. All of these resentments, these fears, this misconduct and the harms and everything, they start to disappear. And as they do, life just gets better and better and happier. And you really do feel an awesome recovery because of that. And what a feeling. Rob?
Yeah. It's funny. Bill is stuck in step 12 here. It's funny how he does that all through the book, isn't it? Our real purpose, and I know you emphasize this too, is our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. This takes work on our part. Okay, it's not always easy, but we're here now to help other people. And that's our whole thought process. Remember, we were selfish and self-centered. Now we've stopped being selfish and self-centered. We ask God, what would you have me do in this situation? What would you have me be? We changed. Now we're worried about other people. We put them first. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves, be of maximum service to God and the people about us. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discovery. Or don't show me, or don't tell me, show me. Show me you've changed. Okay? Remember, if we owe somebody money and we finally show up after a long period of time, and we tell, here's a, $20 of the so much I owe you, I'll try to do better. Don't forget that person wrote that money off a long time ago, thinking they'll never see you or hear from you again. For them to receive $20 is, wow, this person is, surprised. Fit ourselves, be of maximum service. How can I best help you? Not what can I get out of you? How can I best help you? How do I fit myself to be of help to you today and tomorrow and the day after? Whole new way of thinking and acting, people.
And this holds true for new acquaintances as well. Not even those that you've never even, the people that you've come up on in the future. So it's a complete change and a complete environment change for you going forward.
Well, which makes me think of sponsee newcomers that come into the fellowship. How can we help them? What can we say? What can we do in order to help them on their journey? Instead of, maybe I can borrow $20 from them. Oh, they're new. They don't know who I am. Yeah, I can get 20 bucks. Our whole way of thinking has changed. Which reminds me of Bill's story about the going into the hole. The drunk that ends up in the hole. Bill will tell that story another time, but he's got great stories. I love his analogies. Bill is incredible. We're on page 77, everybody. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God when it will serve any good purpose. We're willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. And maybe he has done us more harm than we have done him. And though we may have acquired a better attitude towards him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former will feeling and expressing our regret.
Yes, and this is what we were talking about. Some of those more difficult ones that we're actually trying to approach. You may or may not get a positive response. But the other part of this is we take the bit in our teeth. Okay, we're going to do this. We've got the courage, we've got the strength. We're going to approach this person and we're going to do it in a positive and upbeat manner. We're going to be talking solely about ourselves. So, irrespective of whether or not they have done more harm to us than we have to them, we are working on us and what we did to this person. And we're going to focus on that, and we're going to do the best we can. And we're going to be the most sincere and honest person that we can be. And in the end, if they are receptive to it, oh my gosh, what a great feeling. If they're not receptive to it and it doesn't go exactly right, you know what? You did your best. And I mean sincerely that you did do your best. And you can actually feel better about what you're doing and how you've done it and what you did going forward, and you tried, and that's another important part here, is that you try, and that's really what we're trying to get across in this paragraph here. Bob?
Yeah, the one thing I love about the book is that it doesn't leave you hanging. In other words, it doesn't tell you to go and do something without giving you help to do it. Here we're going through the amends process. Bill has talked about an enemy and how to go to an enemy. Now, and then we're going to talk about a creditor, criminal, alimony, business, domestic, family, and people we cannot see. Okay, we're going to go through all these things. So they don't leave you hanging. There's no part in this book where it says, well, what do you think you should do? It helps you out here. It walks you through it. We forgive others because it sets us free. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. We simply tell them that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out our past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the results.
Yeah, so big deal here. One of the things that you are to not do, under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. If all of a sudden you find yourself on the defensive, you start to go back and forth, you've lost the intent, and the whole idea of what you've trying to accomplish is gone. And now all you've done is created more harm. You've probably rekindled the resentments, both on your part and on their part. And the next thing you have done is just done more damage than what you had, that was just not the intent. So you've got to stay positive. You got to stay on task, stay on message, and you've got to stay true to yourself, because what you're trying to do is clean your side of the street, as they say here. And I've really highlighted this entire paragraph because it is so good with regard to just telling you this is the how to do it. This is what not to get yourself in bogged down in. And his faults are not discussed. Don't let it go that way, because if it does, then all you're going to do is again rekindle the problem and the resentments, and you're going to find that you're a step back as opposed to a step forward in your progress and your recovery. They talk about this being calm, frank, and open. You will be gratified with the result. You stay on message. You stay positive. The task, whether it's receptive, if they're receptive or not, is not the intent here. It would be great if they are. That's the whole idea, is that you hope that they do. But if they don't, you stay the course and don't waver off that path, and you will find that you're going to feel much better about yourself when it's all said and done. You're going to be able to, quote, as they say, sleep better that night because you did at least try and attempt it. And you behave in that positive manner because it is the right thing to do. Rob?
Yeah, very well put, Leo. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes a man we're calling upon admits his own faults, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part. It's water over the dam.
Yeah. So as kind of a summation of what we just talked about, bottom line is that in most cases, you're going to find that it's going to be a positive interaction. And that's what we're trying to get across here. So again, review that with yourself, with your higher power. Know that more times than not, it's going to be positively received, and you're going to get out of it much more than you thought you were going to when you started it. But in all cases, if it's not receptive, if they're not receptive, if they're not positive, if things aren't going in the right manner of which you would hoped, it's okay. You stay on task, stay positive, and you're going to find that you're going to feel much better about the whole thing when you get done. A brief example, I have an old friend from high school that just decided that from a political standpoint, became very disenfranchised with the way things were going in the United States, and was very upset about things, and expressed himself in a way that was different than it used to be. And he became very angry. He would lash out, and I found myself, going on the defensive and lashing out at him. Bottom line is that it was becoming a very toxic relationship because we differed in our beliefs, and we couldn't get past that and just be friends with differences. And bottom line is I did in fact call. I was able to talk with him. He was still not very receptive, but in the end, when I think about it, which is rare now, but when it does come up like it is right now, I think to myself, did the best I could, tried to mend the fence. In this case, it was figuratively, not physically, and I feel better because I attempted to express the things that I did wrong. My lashing out at him, my defensiveness towards him, was the things I focused on. He was still not receptive, unfortunately, but it was one of the tougher ones because I cared a lot about this person, and I really, really wanted it to go well because I really wanted this friendship to be rekindled and started back up. It just wasn't to be. I still hold out an inkling of hope that at some place down in the future, somehow I will be able to rekindle this relationship. But nonetheless, I at least feel good about the fact that I have I've talked to him directly about my wrongs and the things that I did that damaged the relationship, and tried to make amends in that regard. So didn't work exactly the way I wanted, but I did feel better after I was done, having tried what I feel like was my best and most honest and earnest effort to try to mend things and make things better. I think it made things better for me, maybe not for him, but that's another story. Right?
Yeah. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know about it anyways, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on a theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go. For we are liable to drink, we are afraid to face them.
Yeah, creditors are a broad range of people. Some of them are just old friends that we might have leaned on to buy a series of drinks and then not, paid them back over a period of time. It could be a bar that we would go to and we would drink on credit, and then we, somehow fell off and did not either pay or we've got a bill that's a month or 2 or 3 old, that type of thing, and we've kind of we're unwelcome to other things like creditors for major loans, maybe for an automobile or a home or something like that, that because of our drinking we haven't been able to get and actually maintain work, and we haven't got a steady income, and therefore we're having to make choices probably poor choices as we're going along as to what we're paying for and what we're not paying for, et cetera, et cetera. So creditors really run the gamut from everything from a, small time individual that we might owe $20 as Rob's experience example was, to something big that we really are, on the verge of maybe even losing our home because of it. Now, what they're talking about here is making a plan, approaching the person head on, and very, very much in a positive manner, talking about your shortcomings. You're definitely wanting to make sure that you get out there in the open of what some of the things that are causing you to be in the where you are, but that you are in the fact trying to fix things. And most people shy away from creditors and they avoid them, and it just makes things worse. It's really refreshing to a creditor, especially of the good kind, because there are bad ones out there, I get it. But the good kind are always going to be willing to work with somebody that's willing to work with them. I think that's the 9 times out of 10 is what you're going to find, that they're going to be receptive. And I am talking about good creditors, whether it's a friend, a bar, a car, or a home, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to be receptive, and there's a lot of programs out there that people are willing to implement in order for you to get on the right track over a period of time. So really the message here is do not avoid this. This is some of the best things that you can do, is to pay the money back that you owe, and do it in a timely manner, and in a way that actually keeps you afloat as well. Because the last thing you want is to create more problems for yourself by paying too much on something and then not having enough left over for medications or food or electricity, etc. So the idea here is really to just really get this down and attack it in the best way that you can. And you're going to find that in most cases they're going to be receptive, because getting nothing from you is not a good thing, but getting something from you is much better than getting nothing, and they will take that tact. Rob?
Yeah, Leo, well put. Especially when you think about the electric bill, where second warning, third warning, we just throw it in a drawer thinking that well, I'll get to this later, and then the lights get turned out. Most of them will work with you. Here's a warning: we must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. Okay, Leo makes a great point. Okay, we can't just pay everybody, what we owe them and leave ourselves with nothing, so we can't afford to eat. We can't afford to survive. Okay, so that's why we go to our creditors and we let them know where we stand, that, I can't afford to pay everything. Most of these people, they don't want to turn off your power. They don't want to repossess your car. They don't want to kick you out of the house. They don't want to do this, or they don't want to do that. Most of them, that's not what they want. What they want you to do is to acknowledge and work with them. And most of them will go out of their way to help you. So that's why we have to lose our fear of creditors. It's because most of them just want to be of help. They want to get their money eventually, yes, but they also want to try to help. Except a loan shark. I hear loan sharks aren't too receptive about letting you pay later on. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So here's a different kind of scenario. First and foremost, in any type of criminal offense, any type of illegal activity, and you're trying to make right, I encourage you to consider seriously working with a lawyer, and getting some professional help. This is above and beyond asking for guidance from your higher power, and really kind of digging deep, because that's going to give you the courage, it's going to give you the willingness, and it's also going to provide you that avenue that you need to take in order to find what is the best course of action that you should take in some instance like this. Hopefully this is not the case, but if it is, I'm telling you that an attorney, a good attorney, is going to be worth their weight in gold in guiding you in that regard. You know, the fact that you might have child support payments due and you're behind on that and you're in trouble with the courts and everything. The last thing they really want to do is to put you in jail, even if that's one of the options that they have on the table, because if you're in jail, you still can't make those payments. And the fact is they want you to be able to make those payments because they want those children to have the support that they deserve and are required to have in order for them to have the lives that are somewhat expected for them. So get in a good lawyer, approaching the courts in a manner in which is appropriate and in a way that actually keeps you out of trouble, and work out some kind of payment plan is going to be far favorable than to find yourself going at it headstrong into it and then finding out that you made a couple of blunders or mistakes and there you are sitting behind bars and now thinking to yourself, now what am I going to do? And that just makes things worse. That's the point. Don't make them worse. You're trying to make them better. And that's what you're trying to accomplish here. And, you know, it holds true for things like alimony or anything else. Those are court-ordered payments that you've got to make. And yeah, in almost all cases, jail time can be enforced if you refuse to act accordingly. So again, the emphasis here is that in these cases, it's best to actually find professional assistance in the form of a lawyer and getting that guidance that you really need to do and go forward with this so that you can avoid any jail time or any break in your ability to actually make restitution. Well,
Bunny Leo, now we're at the top of page 7 now. We're going to talk about divorce.
Mhm.
Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number 1. She is indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too.
yeah, we'll keep going to the next paragraph.
Okay. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any length to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything.
There's an important thing here. You know, we talk about doing everything possible to avoid jail, and that should be the goal. But maybe it is that you actually have to spend some time in jail in order to make restitution of some kind. And it's just these crimes against humanity that you may have to just actually sit behind bars for a period of time. Hopefully not for long, but maybe that's the end result. The point being is if you have exhausted all other avenues, trying your best to do the right thing by those folks that you've wronged in some manner or fashion, if it turns out that you're going to find yourself in that regard doing that, the point being is the worst case scenario should still be where you're willing to go in order to make things right. So that courage, that strength, that I can't begin to tell you that you do that, and you find yourself paying back, whether it's an individual or society, in the manner in which is the most appropriate for whatever the infraction is. And you do this and do it with a clear conscience. In fact, after the fact, you have a much more clear conscience. You've paid your debt, and that's a good feeling. That's a good place to be. So point is, be willing to go to any lengths, even if it includes being incarcerated for a period of time. And, you know, whether you lose your position or a job and you have to go find something else, your reputation is tarnished or damaged for a period of time, you know, it's really hard to build up a good reputation, but it takes only one thing to destroy the whole thing at once, and it just takes forever to build it back. So remember that it just takes a lot of work, and that's okay because you're willing to do that. That's where we have gotten ourselves doing our steps 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then now we're in our 8 and 9, and we're really working towards this. That's this whole portion of the steps is so important to cleanse and clean our side of the street. And the cleaner our side of the street is, the better we are, and the better we are in a position to help and be of service to others. Rob?
Remember, it's the secrets that kill us, and that the things that we're trying to hide. We're not trying to hide anything anymore. We are who we are. And we are now living in God's world. What would God have us be? What would he have me do in this situation? And that's what it's all about. So, do you want to bring Bill into it now?
Absolutely, Rob. A good place to do so. Thank you.
Hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey.
Hey, Bill.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good job today. This is some real important stuff here. This is really, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We started off on page 75 talking about going through step 5. And there's a bunch of promises right there in the middle of that page. And one of the promises says, we begin to have a spiritual experience. So when we start sharing this stuff with others, with somebody else, we start to have a spiritual experience. Now, in order to complete the spiritual experience, you have to go through the rest of the steps. But a lot of people start having it at this point. So that's why this is such an important step. If we leave this out, we're leaving out the whole purpose of what this whole program is about. And then it gives us it tells us a time frame here. It tells us we can be quiet for an hour. That means we can sit down and think about what we did, if you want to call that meditation, for an hour. And then we're supposed to continue. In other words, they want us to get this thing done. They don't just want us to start it and then stop it and come back 6 months or a year later. Yeah, they give us an hour in between some of these steps. That's the only break that we really get. And understand something about the 5th step. When you do the 5th step, you're going to have more than one 5th step. You're going to have your 5th step that you do with your sponsor. And when you get through this process, you're going to have your own sponsees that you do a 5th step with. So one time you're going to be on one side of the 5th step, and the other times you're going to be on the other side of it. So we need to keep this going. And then it talks about doing step 6 and step 7. And just before you get to step 6, it says we're carefully reading the first 5 proposals. That means the first 5 steps. We ask if we have omitted anything. So when we get to step 6, we answer to our satisfaction. In other words, did I do the first 5 steps correctly? Did I leave something out? Did I try to get away with something? That's what we're looking for. And we're looking for willingness here. That's what's important about step 6, is the willingness to go through with this. And if we don't have the willingness, we pray for the willingness. That's what it tells us there. It says we ask God to help us be willing. Anytime it says we ask God, that means we're praying. Or even if it just says we ask, that means we're praying. And that's what we're supposed to do. Pray for the willingness to get through this. And if you don't have the willingness, you may need to go back and look at 1 through 5. You might have left something out in one of those steps. And from my experience, most people miss something in step 1. That seems to be where a lot of people get. People go through 2, 3, 4, 5, and they don't seem to have a problem, but they have a problem with step 1. They don't really believe they're powerless. Yeah, I'm powerless during the weekdays, but I'm not powerless on the weekends or that kind of stuff. Or, gee, this is a holiday. I'm not powerless on a holiday. I'm only powerless on regular days. No. Once you're powerless 24/7 forever. That's it. And if you don't have that step 1 down, you're going to have trouble going through the rest of these steps. And then it goes into step 7, and basically step 7 is the prayer. All we have to do is say this prayer, and that's it. And if you notice, there's an amen at the end of this prayer. There was no amen at the end of the 3rd step prayer. A lot of people believe the 3rd step prayer is the first part of the prayer, and the 7th step prayer is the last part of the prayer. So actually, they're kind of connected. And everything in between is like little prayers that we're doing to get through this process that we're going through. And it says we have then completed step 7. So that's really all there is to it. 6 and 7 are very easy, very quick. They happen 1, 2, 3. That doesn't mean they're not important. They're just as important as all the rest of the steps. It's just that they're very easy to do. There's really no action words in them. You don't have to sit down and write anything or talk to anybody about anything. All you're doing is reading the prayer, and you're willing. And that's basically what it comes down to. Then we move into step 9. And step 9 is, step 8 and 9, I should say. And step 8 is we make a list. And according to this, we made the list when we took inventory. When you did your 4th step, you started making your list, because all of the people on your 4th step, or most of them anyway, are probably going to be on your 8th step also. That's why it's not a good idea to burn it. If some numbskull in the room's told you to burn your 4th step, you're going to need it when you get to your 8th step and your 9th step. So if you burned it, you're going to have to rewrite it again. And nowhere in this book does it say to burn anything. So don't listen to anybody telling you that. And it says in here, now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. It says repair. It doesn't say we go out and say we're sorry for the damage done. It says we repair the damage. And like Rob mentioned, if you're driving your car and you crash into somebody's fence, you don't stick your head out the window of your car and say, sorry, fence. That's not amends. Amends means to repair the damage. That's what it says right here, repair the damage. That means I have to get out and fix that fence, or I have to pay somebody to come by and replace it or fix it, whatever. That's what amends means. I have to put things back the way they were before I did some kind of damage to them. That's basically what this is talking about. And remember, at the end, it says, remember, it was agreed that we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. In other words, if you're not willing to do this, you pray for the willingness, because we're admitted that we're going to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. And any lengths means we're going to complete all the rest of the steps. That means we're going to make our amends. We're not going to try to get away with it and disappear. Then he gives us, so he starts giving us some instructions here or suggestions on how to make amends. And right at the top of page 77, and Rob and Leo both talked about this, and I'll talk about it too. It says, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. This is not self-serving. I'm really not doing this for me. It says that's what probably will get me to do it, give me the willingness to do it. I want to straighten out my life. But my real purpose is to be of service to God and the people about us. In other words, Bill's got step 12 snuck right in here. In other words, the whole reason that we're doing this is so that we can be of service to God and to other people. We're not doing this just to fix ourselves. And it says, when you do that, don't announce to a person that you've gone religious. That's leading with the chin. Leading with the chin is not a good thing to do. In the boxing ring or the prize ring, if you lead with the chin, you're going to get knocked out. You're going to lose. That's not a good thing to do. So, in other words, we don't go announcing that, because we could kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. Because if we announce that we're all kinds of religious, a lot of people don't want to listen to us. And then they tell us in the next paragraph that we can use tact and common sense whenever we have to talk about God or anything like that. You've got to use tact and common sense. If the person doesn't want to hear about it, don't throw it at them. That's fine. And then it talks about we're going to the person that we hate it. Notice it says hate it. At this point, we should not hate anybody any longer. When we went through step 4 told us that we got a new attitude towards people. And we learned through the 4th step prayer how to stop hating people. If you still hate somebody, you're not ready to make amends to them yet. You have to go back on step 4 and make sure that you don't hate anybody anymore. We should have gotten rid of our hate by this point. And it says we take the bit in our teeth. A bit is a control device for a horse. That means we're going to keep our control when we do this. And when you have a bit in your teeth, you can't flap your jaw and run your mouth. In other words, we go to the person and we say, I'm here to make amends for what I did, and then you be quiet and you have to listen to them. Part of the amends is not just paying them back or for whatever you owe them or fixing whatever you broke. Part of the amends is also letting them give you a piece of their mind. So we got to take the bit in our teeth and just kind of shut up and take it. We got to take a hit for what we did, and that's that, like it or not. And then at the bottom of the page, it says we're there to sweep off our side of the street. I'm not there to clean their side. I'm there to clean my side. If I'm working on their side of the street, I can't be working on my side of the street. So basically what Bill's doing, he's giving us some good instructions or suggestions here on how to make different kinds of amends, and he's going to give us a whole bunch of suggestions as we go through this. And he also told us that we're not supposed to discuss their faults. If they want to bring their stuff up and talk about it, we have to listen to them. But it's not up to us to bring up their stuff. We're there to talk about what we did, and that's that. So that's pretty much all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thanks so much, Bill. You're the
Okay.
best.
All right, let's go ahead and close out with the serenity prayer, and then we'll open things up.
You got it, sir. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.